there's so much misunderstanding about caste in the West, particularly. And I know that's a topic for another day, but let's just suffice it to say that historical evidence shows that caste, as it's known today, was imposed on Indian society by the colonizers. And that's a point that hardly ever gets discussed. And it's important because huge lessons can be learned from that, and that can help heal divisions. So prior to colonization, I'm sure you know this already, that India was this diverse mix of Varna, Jati, Kul, Gotra, and they were fluid and flexible with movements in between. And then when the British came, they force-fitted this incredibly diverse structures into groupings which they called caste. I mean, the word didn't even exist in India before the Portuguese brought it. And the first time it sort of makes its appearance is in the census of 1870, which the British carried out. So they put people into these categories and then froze the categories. And then if you look at some of the historical literature written by the British themselves, they favored some groups versus others, encouraged friction, basically a classic divide and rule strategy. And I think modern India is doing a good job of trying to get rid of this colonial hangover. But just from your perspective, as someone who's lived in India and in the US, what's your experience and observation of caste before this case? I mean, I know you say you didn't really identify or practice as a Hindu, but did you come across it in any of your dealings, in India or in the US?
Well, two aspects to that, right? Navita, one is I'll answer your specific question about what I see or perceive, and then the general thing about thing. But let me answer the general thing first for a moment. I'm not even an expert on this topic, right, by any means, and almost none of us are. Things are complex. History is complex. Recorded history is a small subset of history, and who knows what. And I'll come to that in a minute. The most vexing thing, irrespective of what caste is or isn't, is you have a State Department that goes ahead and defines caste as a religious entity. The moment they do that, they know they're violating the First Amendment. It doesn't even matter what caste is or isn't. When you go ahead and do that, and the number of examples they've done, the number of assignment of caste, every employee of mine was assigned as upper caste. They use the word dominant caste. They compare the castes of my employees. They say, is John Doe of a higher or lower caste than Ramana Koppala? They're making these assumptions. They're making these assignments. They're talking about the practices of caste, all within a lawsuit. The state simply has no business to talk about what they believe is a religious practice. That is a fundamental issue, independent of the reality or unreality of caste. Right? So I just want to put that out there. Now coming to your question, which is my personal experience, right? Well, when I came to the United States, what is my caste privilege? My caste privilege was a net worth of minus $40,000. I took a loan to come to the United States.